COVID times when David Icke was on various podcasts going, oh, well, it's 5G that's causing a virus. And then people started trying to like cut down 5G towers and things like that. It is that insanity. And it's just like lump these people into this crazy pile. They can't be trusted. They don't know what they're talking about when it comes to anything.
Yeah, although I have to say, in Da Nang, they recently brought out 5G, and I have had a mild cold ever since. So I don't know.
That's all the evidence I need to hear.
In the 1980s, it took a team of journalists weeks to verify a story. In 2025, an AI can generate 1,000 convincing fake news articles in seconds, while another AI tries to detect them. We're living in a world where seeing is no longer believing, and today we're exploring how to find truth when it's buried under an avalanche of information. Welcome to Temporally Scripted. I'm Jack Austin with Adam Garcia, and we're looking into what we call the information wars, which is the ongoing battle for our attention, beliefs, and ultimately our realities in a world where anyone can create content, but few know how to verify it. From traditional media gatekeepers to algorithmic news feeds and AI-generated content, we're examining how information control has evolved and what it means for our understanding of the truth. We're going to explore how algorithms shape our worldview, why misinformation spreads faster than facts, and what tools we need to navigate this new landscape without being manipulated or misled. Not that we weren't in the TV days anyway. So Adam, let's dive into this.
Yeah, let's. So where do we begin?
Well, I think looking at a bit of the history of information and information manipulation may well be the best place to start, because of course the internet means that anybody can post stories and things can go viral from any account anywhere in the world at any given moment. But it's not like controlling the narrative is a new thing.
Yeah, I guess it's always been there. So before the invention of the printing press, which is when I guess knowledge could be circulated more widely and accessed by more people. Before then, it would be, I guess, leaders of countries, leaders of religions, that they were the gatekeepers of information, which I guess is still there now in some ways. If you think of like the Vatican archives, like these miles of tunnels and all these documents that are just there, that people now have some access to, but not very much. But yes, I guess in the past we had gatekeepers still, but just a different variety of gatekeeper.
Yeah, and I wonder if now it's the question that there is that much more noise that it becomes even easier to subject is the wrong word, to subdue information and also create sort of a ridicule around certain types of information. And I think maybe that's been the case for quite a long time. You know, if people believe something that isn't what the mainstream media or the mainstream narrative says, it's usually deliberately linked to something that's totally crazy, so that people go. The example I have in my head of this kind of information wars thing is Alex Jones, right? So some of the stuff Alex Jones says about the government and the way that things are set up to benefit people that are within the circles and within the know, whether that be, we're not saying all this Illuminati stuff or anything else, we're just saying that surely people that know each other help each other out and keep that money within the circles. And it's something that Elon Musk is uncovering at quite a rapid rate with what he's doing with the Department of Government Efficiency. But what they'll usually do is if you say something like, oh, well, this president and that president, they went to school together, so there must be a link there. People go, you believe in the lizards, you're a lizard believer. And I actually think that's a deliberate ploy to link true things that they don't want us to know about with ridiculous things, so that you're instantly tarred with that brush.
Yeah, completely. Because I mean, that was some of the things with like David Icke. I don't know if you're familiar with any of David Icke's work,
I
but
am
it's
indeed.
like there's so many things where he'd gone about, say, bloodlines being linked and things like that from, I don't know, medieval Europe all the way through to present day presidents and things like that. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of true. And you sort of go, well, it would be because countries would marry, royal families would marry off their children to different other royal families throughout Europe. And
Or their
it,
cousins.
yeah, yeah, like that King of Spain that was like an absolute mess because of all the inbreeding, had all these like horrific. But yeah, anyway, and you can even look at the British royal family in some ways. God, that's like inbred look to them. But
Horsey is how I would say it.
yeah, regal. so, so yeah, it makes complete sense that these bloodlines would exist, and of course they would. And the idea of conspiracy, it's like what some rich friends would help each other out to maintain their wealth or get wealthier. It's going to happen. But then with the David Icke thing, so you don't uncover things like this, but then at the same time, the whole reason is because the royal family is actually a group of shape-shifting reptilians from another planet. So, and all this stuff where is there some conspiracies going on? Yeah, for sure. There's bound to be, there has to be, when you have that much power and control and people have this greed, there's going to be rich people conspiring together against the rest of the population in general. But are they shape-shifting lizards? Probably not. But it's like it's that thing you were saying where it's like, here's something serious that could be going on. Let's just jumble that in with something utterly absurd, and then no one pays attention to it.
Yeah, and make sure that this person is well enough known that most people will know that's one of the things that they say, as well as the ridiculous like lizard story.
Yeah, and with
So,
people like that, I've got to say, I sometimes wonder if that person is an actual plant, like
I
they're an asset of MI5 or CIA or whatever else.
Yeah, let's come to that in 1 second because I was going to say the exact same thing and I agree with you. But I also just wanted to add to the point before we move on about these conspiracies of rich people helping each other out. I think that's just human nature, right? Like if I see a job opportunity or a business opportunity and I think, hey, Adam would love that, I'm going to tell you about it first, aren't I? I'm not going to go and tell
Yeah,
the guy next
completely.
door on the street that does the same thing that you do and go, hey, just to be fair, I thought I'd let you know as well as my friend Adam that I've known for 15 years, 20 years, or whatever. You know, I don't like things to be unfair. So,
So
I'm
you,
sure,
random man.
yeah. So random man, there's an opportunity that you should go for. I know the guy, and I'll put in a good word for you. It's like that's just not how it works, is it? So I think
It's
even the
not.
poor are guilty of collusion. Now, granted, with poor, it might be that Stella's on offer at Iceland or whatever.
Or bargain booze.
Yeah, or Bargain Booze has got a deal on, or they've left the lockup open round the back, and Shane's gone in and got himself a crate of cheap vodka, like
Yeah, or
whatever.
Jimmy's got some banging speed.
Yeah,
I
or
don't know.
someone knocks on your door and said they've got a selection of TN tracksuits for 10 quid a go. I mean, they're not going round to the Queen's house, or well, God rest her soul. They're not going round to the King's house knocking on his door and offering the TN tracksuit, are they?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Or
So
Richard Branson or whoever else.
yeah, it's good you made that. So I'd like to dig into that a bit more because it's something I also think would be quite clever. Is if you plant someone that's putting out a lot of the true information that you don't want people to discover, and then you make them tell ridiculous stories like ducks have 3 legs. It's
Yeah,
it's a clever way because you instantly get tarred with that. Well, not tarred. What's the right word? I don't know why I'm so obsessed with tars today. For having some kind of medieval thought process going on in my head. But you get grouped with the people that do believe that the world's flat and all of that
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, I remember sort of COVID times when David Icke was on various podcasts going, oh, well, it's 5G. It's 5G that's causing a virus. And it's like, really? And then people started trying to like cut down 5G towers and things like that. And you just like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's terrible.
Just causes
phone
that
signal.
yeah, but it is that insanity, and it's just like, yeah, lump these people into the sort of crazy pile. They can't be trusted. They don't know what they're talking about when it comes to anything.
Yeah, although I have to say, in Da Nang, they recently brought out 5G, and I have had a mild cold ever since. So I don't know.
That's all the evidence I need to hear.
Let's give it out the masts. You know, it could, of course, be because I'm able to connect with people more easily. So I'm using my voice more often on calls with friends, telling them about the opportunities that I see, so that everyone gets a fair shake.
Oh yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly.
So the other thing, I guess, is what we said at the beginning is about AI, and now it's even easier to make 1,000 stories. But this is something that's not very new either. Like, ever since the internet was created, there has been a ton of information that isn't necessarily correct or true or written from
Yeah, I mean, I think
knowledge.
even before the internet, you'd have the same thing in newspapers where there were things that weren't strictly true, or sometimes you'd have really funny ones, like was it the Sunday Sport? They'd have things like London bus found
Men
on
of
the
culture.
moon. Yeah.
Men of culture, can you remember the Sunday Sport? There's two things I can remember very well about the Sunday Sport, I have to say.
And it'd have like on the front cover, it'd have like a nipple count, sort of 47 or something like that.
Yeah, good times. Good times. It's like the days of FHM and Maxim. I'm just reading it to find out what the best shaving cream is.
Yeah.
I just buy it for the sample. Not that kind of sample.
Good times.
Yeah, and I mean, so the example I was thinking about there in terms of the internet is, obviously I worked for a company that was producing blogs about travel and stuff. So it's a blog about going on holiday to somewhere, say it could even be like Vietnam, right? And I know that the people writing those articles have never been to Vietnam at all. So they're just basing their information third hand or fourth hand from the other articles that are written online. And the other articles written online were probably written by people that didn't go to that place.
Yeah.
And then now AI is writing its articles based on the information that it's making up. And I think Elon Musk said this week that AI has run out of human information to train itself on. So
Whoa.
Moving forward, they will get it to train itself on its own information.
Right. So it's just like a lie built on a lie built on a lie of, not necessarily a lie, but just not 100% true. And so then that sort of becomes the truth that we're shown. And so we're outsourcing our memories and perception of reality to algorithms and AI.
Yes. And also, it's probably a bit of a ploy to get them to be allowed to use copyrighted material. Did you see the news article from the news article about Sam Altman?
No, I didn't.
So one of the things that Sam Altman is requesting access to train all the models on copyrighted material is to avoid having to train AI on its own self-created material.
Right. Okay. Which I'm sure is 100% legitimate.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's like, I remember seeing this clip of Joe Rogan talking about Sam Altman. He's like, yeah, Sam Altman. He's like, yeah, I'm not about the money. And then he's like, there's a picture of him in his car. He's like, what car is that? And I can't remember the make of car. It's like Koenigsegg or something like that, and it's like $4.5 million. That car's, it's not about the money, and that's just one in his collection.
Maybe he'll claim that it's AI generated, and the reason
could be.
I mean, I think as well, without jumping off too much, I think there's a whole episode to be done on open AI and that whole situation that's going on there. But I think he was part of getting the whole board sacked so that he could put in a new board that is more profit focused. Because as soon as that happened, they basically switched off all the open source elements of open AI.
Yeah.
So
Closed AI.
basically is what they did. But yeah, that's certainly, I'm going to write that down and we can use that as a future episode, because I think there is a huge amount of interesting stuff going on in the AI world.
Well,
when it comes to the businesses.
If you think he's probably the most influential, powerful character in the AI sphere in many ways.
I really see celebrity deathmatch between him, Sam Altman against Mark Zuckerberg.
Pro Elon in there somewhere.
Elon in there. Maybe like a Royal Rumble. They release a new one in every 30 seconds. You could get Jeff Bezos in there. I reckon he can.
Nobody's jacked.
yeah. I think Bezos and Zuckerberg are going to be the strongest. But you wouldn't put it against Elon having some kind of cyborg.
Yeah, some
Tony
kind of
Stark
weird
style thing going on. So let's roll it back then. So if we go all the way back to information control and the history of information control, how did the early media institutions come to fore? Why? And at the beginning, obviously, these companies held a huge monopoly. They still do today. People don't realize how many media outlets are still owned by the same people, the same companies.
Yep.
It was a real gatekeeping situation back then because you didn't have the internet.
So you had no outside sources. So whoever controlled the major newspapers controlled everybody's perceptions, because you couldn't just go and research elsewhere. It was so limited.
Yeah. And then this was made even worse by obviously the First and the Second World War, where the media was weaponized as well. It was used in a way to shape people's beliefs about whatever enemy there was.
Yeah, from both sides.
Yeah, and even from planes, they dropped leaflets on cities, both sides did, that were trying to get revolutions going on. Well, is it a revolution? Is that the word? Uprisings. However, there was disinformation being dropped over cities as well. So it was really used as an information
just
weapon.
To sort of sway public opinion.
Yeah.
And it's like that thing. It's just things like that. It's just moving the odds slightly. Just like the idea of in roulette in America, where you have like 0-0, and if the ball lands there, everything goes to the house. It's just that extra little bit. I can't remember the stats, but it puts like the house at like 51%. Right. Or something like that. So all it needs to do is just keep on playing this game, and you've just shifted the odds slightly. And I guess with public opinion, it's much the same. It's just on a much more complicated way, but it's just shifting it just a little bit. And those little 1% or 0.01% all add up.
Yeah. Do you know where the term propaganda originated from?
No, I don't.
So allegedly, or apparently, or according to ChatGPT and my Google research, right. The term propaganda originated from our good friends at the Catholic Church. And it was their efforts in the 17th century to propagate faith.
Right.
So that's the earliest example of institutional information control. And then obviously the Nazis were the next ones that really exemplified extreme media control with heavy propaganda and censorship so that they could manipulate public opinion. So the Nazis learned it from the Catholics.
Which it sounds about right. I mean, why not?
My grandma's like a spinning top in her grave right now if she can hear me talking about that.
Oh yeah, I think one of my grandmas, she used to go to church every day, sometimes twice a day, like devout Roman Catholic.
Yeah,
People are not
definitely.
like that so much these days.
No, that's true. It's a very different, and I wonder if that is because of the information that's available from various other sources now.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that's probably a whole other episode. How did we get rid of God and what did we replace it with?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to see that there's like a good information and a bad information, even though there is all of this information out there. I don't know if you've ever tried talking to somebody who is very based in science and science said this and it's peer reviewed, it should be peer reviewed. And if you ever try and have an argument with these people about with a slightly different perspective on how things might be, it is the same as talking to someone who is heavily religious. It's the same.
Yeah, completely.
Conversation.
It's that same devout belief.
Yeah.
Even though it happens often where you have a paper that comes out that proves something, then later on it turns out not to be the case, or was something that led to results that wasn't what they thought. So yeah, it's not always right, or just because something's a scientific fact today doesn't mean that it will be in 10 years.
In the sense that the universe doesn't revolve around the earth.
Yeah, in that kind of sense.
You know, which granted the Greeks came up with mathematics, which we still use today, but did they not also believe that everything revolved around the earth?
Yeah, because whole perspectives and whole ways of thinking change.
Yeah.
All of reality changes, basically, or how we interpret it.
Yeah, I've two stories about that and information that come to mind, and one of them is having a conversation with somebody who's very dear to me. And whenever you bring out something that is slightly, what's the opposite of mainstream? Slightly underground, slightly less well known.
Alternative.
There we go. That's the word we're looking for. Thank you for being my human thesaurus on that one, Adam.
I asked ChatGPT, it did it for me. I was stuck as well.
That was quick. Well done. And I couldn't hear you clacking on the keyboard and the sound, so that's good. But yeah, the conversation would always go back to, this is peer reviewed. It's peer reviewed. It's peer reviewed. And that level of frustration trying to have a conversation with somebody on that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous because they don't know that obviously peer reviewed means that it's got a certain amount of interest and funding and is within circles that will peer review bits of information. And of course, every scientist has spent years and years of their life working on a particular idea or belief, and someone comes along with something that's totally opposite to that idea or belief and threatens to undo the 40 years of work that they've done on this particular structure, they're not just going to go, do you know what? Yeah, you're right. Fuck it.
I was wrong.
Stuff, yeah,
for the whole of my life.
Yeah, all the time I could have spent with my family or like getting pissed off or whatever that I spent in that lab working on this thing, and you've just come along today and told me that all of my life's work
absolute nonsense.
Is nonsense. Yeah, I'm going to peer review you because what you said is correct. And you can argue, scientists are not like that, you know. They're looking for the truth. Scientists, they really want to follow the truth. But you only have to go back to when Stephen Hawking brought his theory in and presented it in front of a group of peers at Cambridge like half of the room walked out and said it was preposterous and that it was ridiculous, the whole black hole thing.
Yeah.
But the reason they all walked out and said it was preposterous is because they'd all been working on an alternative theory for their whole careers and lives, and they knew they were going to die having spent their lives working on something that turns out is not correct.
So you have that in kind of like a personal level and kind of an ego level. At the same time, some things are just never researched because the funding isn't there, because there's no money to be made. So there's been loads of proposals for, I don't know, things like experiments with vitamin D and seeing how efficacious it is with all kinds of various ailments. But there's no money in it because we already make it. It's not under like patent or anything like that. You can't come up with something new and make loads of money. The pharmaceutical companies just want to keep making new, wilder and wackier drugs that are dead expensive because then they can make money. And the funding for research comes via this avenue.
Yeah.
And so what you're finding going, oh, well, this is peer reviewed or this isn't. It's because no one wants to peer review certain things because there's absolutely no money to be made.
Yeah. And the money is in the alleviation of symptoms and not in cures. As somebody who worked for one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world and saw how they would celebrate when the flu in China was bad in a particular year, because they know that by the time it comes around to the UK, people are going to get more sick than they did the year before, which means that they will sell more Beechams and whatever else to allay the feelings of cold and flu that people have when they still have to go to work in the sad factory 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
Oh, yeah, of course, because, for something like boots, winter's like prime season. Everyone's getting the flu, everyone's getting sick. It's like, yeah, business is booming. Business is booming.
Yeah, business is awesome. And I'm sure if you went to the CEO or even the head of pharmaceuticals at Boots and he said, listen, got this cures the common cold, one tablet, take it once, it's done. You never get a common cold again. Game over. And you went to them and said, do you want to buy it? They'd be like, yeah, we do want to buy it, but we're never going to sell it to anybody.
Yeah, completely.
Because it will crush our whole cold and flu business, and alleviating symptoms is the business that we're in.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's the same with a lot of products as well. You could make something that's unbelievably reliable, never wears out, lasts for like 20 years, but no one's going to want to do that. You want to make cheap stuff that breaks so people have to buy some more.
Yeah, I have to say, I remember this with like the TV we had in my house as a child. It was this massive like box thing. It was huge. I remember it fell off.
Weighs like 30 kilograms or something.
It fell off the stand once and was still okay. You can still pick it up, put it back, and it was fine. It's like that sort of faux wood outside. And I think my parents had it for about 5 years before I was born. And we had that TV in the house until I was about 11 or 12, the same TV. And then from that point, I think we had about 6 different flat screen TVs from that day until the day I left home at 18.
Yeah, of course. And like TVs in the old days, you'd actually get them repaired. So something would go wrong with it, and it's like, all right, well, we'll take it to the TV repair shop. It's like, you'd never repair anything like that now.
Yeah, so my dad actually got me into doing that as a business when I was 11 or 12. So I was buying a second-hand TV or a broken TV, taking it to the repairman, and then selling it again, selling it on, or buying a TV for a price and then selling it on for like 10 or 15 quid more.
Right.
So to trade myself up to a TV that was like the best for playing games on my Super Nintendo.
Yeah, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, so he bought me like the first TV, which was like a little tiny black and white thing this big, and then we gradually built our way up. And it went tits up once when we bought one that was like massive, but it was unfixable. It turned out that to fix it was like the whole tube was done. But yeah.
Right. So it's game over.
So I remember there was a TV repairman because we used to go to his like massive shed with loads of bits and bobs of TVs all over the place. And
Yeah, and there'd be like someone who repaired TVs. Maybe the same guy might repair washing machines or other things like that, various appliances. You could actually get stuff fixed.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I guess there's something around that and information as well, to be honest, is like how people have changed from wanting to fix things and wanting to do things, but it's definitely off topic from where
It's definitely
far off topic. I mean, we did start in the right place for sure. So I get it. So the next part of obviously this, we talked about propaganda and Nazi Germany using it to manipulate public opinion. And we think that obviously it went way before that, even before the Catholic Church using it in the 17th century. But in the contemporary world, it's a use more of digital platforms to disseminate these persuasive messages more rapidly and more broadly than ever before. And with this, it's kind of a shift from them being the gatekeepers of these few companies that own Sky and all of the broadcasting companies. All of the newspapers are pretty much the same company. But now it's become a gateway where the internet has democratized this information access. But has it actually improved anything?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's improved things, and then at the same time, obviously you have far more, I don't know what you'd call it, misinformation, malinformation, whatever, but like you just have a load more things that aren't true. But then at the same time, I remember, I mean, I've noticed it often, but a lot of the time with what could be classed as reputable newspapers, there's a huge bias anyway. And there's no distinction between what's factual and what's opinion. And so even in these things, you're getting stuff that just isn't necessarily true, or it's designed to make you think something. I remember before, it might have been about a year ago, something like that, but just reading this headline, like the first little bit of the story, and it sort of started something like, disgraced former President Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. But you've already started with that. And as you read on, it just gets, I'm not saying I'll like or dislike Trump, but as you go through it, you're just like, wow, this is completely.
Yeah, there's definitely a clever way of presenting these things online so that they invoke a certain emotion. And I think there's this thing from what you said there, some of that is related to what they call algorithmic radicalization. So because of the way that social media algorithms work, if something is getting a lot of likes or a lot of comments or even a lot of angry faces, whatever emoji people are deciding to put against it, that signals to the algorithm to push that content.
Yeah,
which
completely.
means that they say it's inadvertent, but it means that these platforms end up promoting the more divisive content.
Yeah, it does. In fact, there was a study by MIT, and they found that false news was 70% more likely to be reshared or retweeted than actual factual news.
Yeah, because it's got more drama attached to it, and humans love drama. It's something
Yeah,
that makes people want to binge watch Netflix or whatever else. It's that love of drama that we all have.
yeah, and the algos pick it up, and they just want engagement, so it's just pushed out there.
Yeah, yeah. And I wonder if that's what's responsible for the fact that we live in such a polarized world now. Because I consider myself a centrist, really. I'm not really leaning either way, but certainly
lean far right.
Yeah. I know this. I know. Yeah, but don't get your jackboots out, just them out. But no, I would certainly be put in that side now. But really, and I think you're the same, we're not left or right particularly. We're quite relaxed, libertarian, center ground
Yeah, completely.
world. But you're not really allowed to be a centrist anymore. It doesn't, because I think for the same reason of what you just said about people will share fake news more than they'll share the real news, is there's nothing dramatic or interesting about being in the middle.
Yeah, it's like just being normal. Or yeah, it's like if someone says, "Oh, how was your day today?" It's like, yeah, it's just normal. Nothing really happened. If something crazy happened, you've got something good to talk about, whether it's positive or negative. But when it's just normal, it's well. But it's like this thing of like everything has to be a drama on one side or the other to the extreme.
Yeah. I feel like that's like the information war of pushing people to different polarizations so they don't get to relate to one another anymore.
One thing I do kind of like on X is that they have community notes. And so people post whatever it might be, and then there'll be like community notes pops up and says, actually, this video is blah, 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 blah. And it's really good in that respect, but it points out when things aren't what they claim to be. And I wonder if maybe more social media should have that, or maybe whether it should actually be enforced. Because if you think that like 70% of people or whatever use Facebook, that's a huge platform that's dishing out information, perspectives, and reality to the population.
I get it, but I also think that has a layer of danger involved in it as well, because
Who polices the police?
it will be manipulated by the owners of the platform based on what people they have mostly using the platform.
Yeah.
I don't have any faith in their ability to be transparent and not manipulate that based on who they want to be elected. Or, and as much as for X is a better source in yours and I's opinion for these things, they will push people towards one direction more than another. And that might be true. It might not be true. Who knows? I
Yeah.
saw an interview with Elon Musk the other day where he's saying that the vast majority of the corruption that he's finding is like these money printing machines that just send money to like non-government organizations that are mostly left-leaning causes. And there's like this huge amount of money going to all of these left. And he says it's the majority, it's on the left to bring in immigrants that will water down areas and create so that there's never a split state. There's never a state that can be a split anymore, and the Democrats would technically be elected all of the time. Now, that makes a huge amount of sense, doesn't it? Of course, like
completely. It's a really clever game to play.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of planning.
Yeah, it's super smart, and you can see that it would be true. The other thing he said, which is really interesting, is that he believes that is something like the most dramatic possible option, like the thing that would give the highest ratings for a TV show, is probably the thing that's actually going on.
Right.
It's like a theory he has. So whatever you can conceive as like the most dramatic and like scandalous possible thing,
and the most ludicrous or something like that, I think is the way you put it. The most absurd, ludicrous thing you can think of is probably what is happening. Something, I've heard the same thing.
Which is mental. Mental.
Yeah.
Which basically means that all the information we get is pretty much nonsense.
Yeah, completely.
And if you start digging into things like Epstein and Diddy and all of these things, then you think, well, maybe that,
Yeah.
How deep does this go?
Potentially all the way to the top. With all kinds of involvement from the world's most powerful people.
Yeah. On that note, I'm going to go lie in a dark room.
I'm going to go watch some more David Icke.
Yeah.
One thing I've found interesting, but I saw, it's not something I've used, but I've just seen adverts for it. There's something called Ground News. And what it does, it takes articles from like various newspapers and it puts it onto their app. And then it rates them with like a leaning, whether it's leaning left or right and how far. Then it has a percentage of fact. How factual is this? And it's like a whatever percentage. So I saw an advert for it. And then I kind of got to thinking whether we should have tests like that on everything. And it has to get so far to pass the test. And then you could call it news. It's almost like a check mark, like verified. Like, you can get those slices of like plastic cheese that people put on burgers and things like that. And it's not really cheese. So on the packet, it has to say cheese flavored slices.
Right.
Because it's not cheese, so they're not allowed to say it's cheese. So a bit like that, but you do it for news. You just say this is like news flavored sentences or something like that, but it can't actually have the thing of news because news
entertainment.
Yeah. Because the title of news implies that there is some truth to it. And I think unless there's some bar that has to be reached where it's at a level of like factual correctness and it's not shifted too far one way or the other, then I don't think it should be given the title of news. And therefore you can't put it on a news app. But I think some kind of like verification should be there. And it could be voluntary, but it's like, I don't know. Most companies, certainly when it comes to food, they want their goods certified, or when it comes to some kind of supplements or medication, it's certified pharmaceutical grade, whatever.
Yeah, but the thing with that then is, would it then become, so there's two routes you could go. You go down, people who are the experts in news can decide if something is verifiable or not. So then do you have like Rupert Murdoch and these sorts of people and
that sounds like a good idea
on the board to decide if things are factual or not? Or do you go and say, well, let's make it people focused? Because obviously in the age of iPhones and the age of I made myself sound about 100 there. In the age of smartphones, these on the iPhone,
cordless phones.
Yeah, most events that are news are caught on camera. But there's a problem with that in the same way as obviously you can't trust Rupert Murdoch as far as you can throw him. You can't actually even trust videos, because now people take videos on their smartphone. There was that incident in the airport in the UK where some police officer was attacked someone, or I can't remember the exact ins and outs. But the video that was shown like cut off all of the context.
Yeah.
So it's like you imagine the equivalent of when somebody sees someone getting a beating and you run over and kick them in the head because you think, oh, they're giving this poor person a beating, but the person they're beating was actually trying to rape someone 2 minutes before.
Yeah.
But you just came around the corner and seen someone getting wailed and you're like, oh, that's not cool, I'm going to go and get involved. The poor guy who's been the hero gets a face full of boot. It's like, so
yeah.
Then how do you decide what's right or
well, I guess so there's that of like you could take clips of things and you're not getting full context. With AI now, with image manipulation, with video manipulation, it's not quite there yet, and there's still some of that sort of uncanny valley where it just doesn't look quite right. But I think pretty soon it'll be widely accessible to most people, just to make incredibly realistic, lifelike video of anything.
Yeah. I do actually have the solution to this problem. Just stop watching the news. Just ignore it all. Just don't get involved in social media unless you're talking to your family or trying to promote your business. And everything else, just base it on what you experience and what you see. That's it. Whatever else, just ignore it. Because I feel like there's a thing with social media now, right, in general, that quite often I think that everybody knows lots about AI or knows lots about marketing or whatever. but that's because I'm in this echo chamber of the content that I consume. So I'm always looking for videos about AI, videos about business, videos about all the random shit that you and I talk about, and also one of the 7 viewers on our podcast every week, right? so my world is very much set out in that area and these things that I'm seeing, and that's the same for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means that what people are seeing, they get validated on more and more because they think that's the whole news, but it's not. It's the algorithm's way of showing you what's personally interesting to you. And if your view is that, like, I don't know, that all LGBTQI people are wrong, then you're gonna see content that tells you that. And there's no like barometer of reality. Like, what comes into my head about this, and you'll be able to relate to this as well as a fellow Brit, is like pubs in the 90s when you were a kid in the UK. You can go to a pub and there'll be, you know, in our local pub where we lived, right, there was people from all over the place with all different kinds of views. I grew up in the countryside, so you'd have the conservative farmer with loads of land and tractors and stuff sat there having a beer next to Dave and Dave, the gay couple, right? And then you've got like Lynn and Hazel, who are the lesbian couple that are in that pub. And then you'll have like this other dude who's like got his own beliefs. And then you'll have the motorbike dude in leathers. And you'll have like all people from all different cultures and backgrounds and ways of like seeing the world, viewing the world. They're probably all got these conflicting views or whatever. But because they're all in that same pub setting, 50 different types, you imagine it's like a sitcom, this bar, right? Every different kind of person you can imagine is in there. And it's true. And this was in the countryside. But I'd imagine even in city, that's the same, right? And all of these people are coming together
with the common goal of getting pissed.
But they're all together, and the common goal of drinking or whatever. But everyone just gets on, and they get to see that all of these other people are just humans. And I feel like now we don't have that anymore.
I think as well that could come to, I don't know if it's like a bit of like national pride or some kind of thing that we're all in one thing together. And I don't know what it is, but I feel like 20, 30 years ago, there was something that united people more. And that seems to have like evaporated now. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a sense of national pride or something else.
£1
or community. And there's the guy in the corner that sells like rolling tobacco because he does backy runs and stuff like that.
Yeah, people are named after what they do. Like there's a guy called Mick the Sweet because he sold like random hooky sweets that he got from some warehouse or off the back of a lorry. You know, so like you have random people like that come in and sell whatever they're selling to the patrons in the local pub. But no, I think you're right. There was like this sort of collective feeling, and maybe it was the fact that life was, I suppose in some ways I feel like life in the UK certainly peaked in the 90s. It was like the peak was the 90s and the noughties, and it was like the peak of everyone earning good money, things not being super expensive, so you could still go and have a drink, have a night out, spend time doing stuff. Like it was this just peak of everything, technology, all of that being at the point where everything's kind of accessible to everybody. And then it's been downhill from there. So like the cost of things now is just crazy.
Yeah.
You know, my dad used to tell me that it's the way he would judge working and an hour's salary was how many beers can you buy? Like how much petrol can you put in the car? Like how many meals can you have? So if you go out for 2 pints after your shift, it shouldn't be like all of your hour's wage.
Yeah.
Like, and I think now there's that. So that's also driven people into just taking information online and not taking any information from their own experience, from their own two eyes.
And well, like we were saying about kind of that sort of echo chamber kind of way of receiving information, It's not like the old days of going down the pub and saying, "Oh, did you read this thing in the paper today?" And then like different people would like chat about it, and you'd come up with like, or you'd hear different perspectives. You'd come up with a collective idea about something. From like from your example, from people from very different walks of life or different perspectives. Whereas now everyone's lumped into the same thing. So even if you are talking to people on social media about something, you're all talking about the same thing. You all have the same point of view, the same perspectives on everything in life. And so you're not getting those outside sources. And then as soon as something, like with the example earlier about peer review and things like that, and I've had this belief for 40 years. Well, in these little groups, when someone else comes along or they hear something from outside and you go, you're dead wrong about this, it's like, then that's a big thing. You've got to hate those people or push them away and go back to the safety of your in-group. Just like the sort of Plato's cave kind of thing. It's like, no, we just want to stay here and look at the shadows on the wall.
Yeah, and I think that then discourages the skepticism that you used to have when you share these things in public, in a forum where people meet regularly, and I think the pub, certainly for English people, the pub, but in general, people meeting up in public spaces that are not all from the same walks of life and discussing the news of the day was much better, because it would encourage that skepticism between, why are people saying this? What's the motive behind it? And also, because we don't have that now, like you said, with the whole online thing and everyone being online, there's no comeback for sharing poor quality information. Like if you go down the pub and you say this thing and you say, oh yeah, that's right, and then you come back the next week and someone's like, what you told me last week is total bollocks, and this is why. You idiot. There's like a physical comeback, and you have to stand by the words that you say, the things that you share. And if you share things that are nonsense, people call you out as a bullshitter,
Yeah, whereas now as well, it's like, say if I see someone say something on Facebook and then a week later it turns out to be rubbish, am I going to go on their profile, scroll back to last week and then start, well, actually, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's another thing that really people need to do, is encourage that skepticism. It's like, why are people sharing this information? Why are they wanting you to believe that's the case? What's the motive behind sharing this information?
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we really uncover the bias behind some of these thought processes.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to that thing as well, even in sort of more mainstream media, what are they actually sharing with people and what's their motivation behind it? And I know from like going through a news app, half of it's just clickbait, really. Or you'll get things like, it might say, 5 warning signs of diabetes that you should know about. Go, yeah, okay, I wouldn't mind knowing that. And then you have to scroll all the way to the bottom, and it's like, it'll start, diabetes is blah, 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 but affects blah, blah, blah people. And it gives you like all this like just waffle.
Don't as be a fat, greedy bastard.
Yeah. It's glandular. What gland? The Doritos gland? Okay. But you're sort of scrolling through this thing and you're seeing advert, and then right at the bottom, it'll tell you. And that's just like one loose example, but there's so much of that. And it's just because half it, they're just for a newspaper. They don't sell newspapers anymore. So they have to find a way to make money, which is advertising.
And clickbait, yeah. It's like, I'm eating for 2, but you're a man. That doesn't stop me having views.
You Nazi.
I had to bring that in because it reminded me of The Life of Brian, where they're like the People's Front of Judea or whatever. Like,
no, we're not with the Judean People's Front.
Cleese goes, I want to be a woman. He's like, you want to be a woman? You can't be a woman. What do you mean you want to be a woman? I want to have babies. It's like, you want to have babies? You can't have babies. What do you mean you want to have babies? And then the girl goes, well, how's about we support your right to have babies, even though you can't have babies? And everyone's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds great. I'm like, this is from the 70s. Oh, my God, how did they know?
Yeah, it's like some crazy premonition. Just, yeah.
That's totally wild. So moving through, obviously, we've dug into the history of information and where information has been controlled. We've talked about the problems of validating information. We've gone through what we think has changed over the last 20 years in terms of people sharing information with each other. But what's the answer? I mean, you touched a little bit on the idea about things being check marked for like, this is legit, this is newsworthy. And I said my approach is just to ignore all of it and withdraw myself from the information. Is there a way for us to do this? Because even relying on peer-reviewed research
isn't always legit.
Yeah, one of the notes I got from my research says relying on peer-reviewed research fosters a consensus on factual information. But I mean, I question that. Says who? The world is flat. Have you ever looked at a tennis ball close up? Anyway, try.
But it is that there's so many layers to it, and it just makes it virtually impossible to determine what's actually true. But I think what we can do is we can narrow it down in a way so it's more reliable than not. And I think those kind of checks could be good. I don't know if there would be a way that we could use kind of like blockchain technology in a way. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but I'm sure there'd be a way that once you have certain information, it's then stored on the blockchain and you can't mess with it.
Yeah, so once it's been approved by a certain number of people from various backgrounds. I mean, I think the answer is probably some form of AI.
Yeah. But then again, we know that an AI can have a bias depending how it's programmed and what you've asked it to do. So it's just making sure that it's completely fair and balanced.
Well,
but then someone has to be the person checking that and setting that up.
I mean, Uncle Elon says that there's a 10 to 20% chance of Skynet anyway. So maybe we just wait for the nuclear war to wipe out everybody and hope to God that you're not John Connor.
Yeah, because it's going to be a rough day.
Yeah, if that's coming, I just would rather be melted.
Yeah, you want to be as close to the bomb blast as possible, really, and just be vaporized.
Yeah, you don't want to be maimed, do you? That's not cool. And then it'd be really annoying if Grab doesn't work and I can't order a sandwich or a coffee or whatever.
Nice wrap from Jeremy's kitchen.
Yeah.
Same here, I'd be gutted.
Yeah, I don't fancy, looking for grubs and while trying to avoid being shot by a robot or Arnold Schwarzenegger coming out and complaining about Donald Trump in my ear. Like,
one thing I was thinking about earlier is that maybe there needs to be some kind of education as to how to look at things like social media or even just news in general and sort of think a bit more critically about it. I've not looked into it, but I did hear that in Finland, they actually have critical media literacy taught in primary schools to actually, it's like going back to the education episode that we did. There's just certain things that we should be taught in schools, especially now, that don't seem to be taught in many countries.
Yeah, I agree. It's building that ability to be skeptical. and to question the validity of any viewpoint. I also think it's hugely important to learn how to identify your own biases.
Yeah.
Because we all have them.
Yeah, completely.
As a white British male that's middle-aged, there are certain things and bits of information that I don't like to hear.
Yeah, kind of uncomfortable truths that no one wants.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is that thing that we're never told in school that this thing that is called the news might not be telling the truth. You know, it's like, because growing up, you always sort of think, okay, well, whatever comes on the 6 o'clock news or whatever, that's like journalists reporting the truth. But it's not always. And that's quite a big thing, because that gives people like a kind of cognitive dissonance where there's like these institutions or whatever it may be that they believe to be truthful, and unfortunately they're not.
Yeah. It's like, this news might not actually be the news. And going back to the 70s, this gym will fix it for you, but maybe not in the way you expected. But that is certainly a story for another episode. So, yeah, that was good. I like that we dug deep into the information wars. I don't think that this is a topic that's going to get any more easy to solve. But I think for the audience, the real answer to this is whether you're doom scrolling through social media, consuming your news that way, or really trying to figure out what's actually happening in the world. The information wars today affect every aspect of our lives. And as technology continues to blur that line between fact and fiction, our ability to think critically and verify that information isn't just a skill for academics. It's becoming essential for participating in society and maintaining our collective grip on reality, particularly when we live in increasingly digital worlds. So next week, we're exploring another really cool thing, and something that's quite close to mine and Adam's lives and realities, which we're calling the work revolution. So with the world changing from being in the office to being anywhere, we're going to examine how traditional employment is transforming, the impact of remote work on our lives and our cities, and whether AI will be our colleague or our replacement in the coming decades. We also forgot to tell you all at the beginning that this is the very first episode of Series 2. So thank you for sticking with us. I guess by this point, we're somewhere between 10 and 20 subscribers. So that's nice. Thank you for all of you and all of your support. But we would like to hear from you. So what information sources do you trust? How do you verify what's true online? Share your thoughts and experiences with us on X, which is our preferred platform, at Temporally Scripted. And don't forget to check out our show notes for a curated list of what we discussed. Not really, we don't put any of that on there, but you'll just find some funny quotes from us. And let us know what you thought of today's episode.